I'm going to give you just a little rundown of how this is going to work tonight. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Penn and about PUSD, kind of give you an overview, and then we'll have our presentation. And then after our presentation, you'll have an opportunity for Q&A. So there are some note cards. If you want to write down some thoughts, if it's something that can wait till the end, that would be great. And then you'll have an opportunity to meet parents who have their children in different PUSD schools to find out from them, get a perspective of what their schools are like. So before we get started, anybody here been to a Penn program before? Show of hands. Okay, so what were you here when your kids were like babies? And, right? And who here is starting kindergarten next fall? Okay, so most of you. And who is also looking at private schools? Okay, all right, good. So you're keeping your options open. How many of you want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next 4 years so that you can never take a vacation again? How many of you would rather have that money by sending your kids to public school, and then you can have all kinds of enrichment opportunities for your kids and travel and save for college and be part of a great community that is part of PUSD, right? That's what we all want. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I live in Pasadena. I have 2 adult children now who went to PUSD schools, went to college, graduated, and support themselves. So you can do it, it's possible, and we frankly did it at a time that I'm not sure this many people in a room would have been looking at public schools. But we believed in the value of public education and of the enriching experience that we thought our kids would have from the environment of being in a public school, and I'm sure glad that we did. And it actually, that's how I've ended up becoming involved with Penn, because there was no organization like this when I was looking at schools. And so thank goodness for the parents who started this program. So Penn is now a network of more than 1,600 parents who send our children to the public schools and support the public schools. This is weird. Can you hear me if I don't? Oh, you're recording this. So probably okay. So what we do is that we work basically in 3 different spaces. One is that we help families with their transition to kindergarten and also to secondary school. So while we're supporting you in this effort and giving you the information you need to make the right choices for your family, we hope that if you choose a PUSD school, that you will then come back to our programs when you're in 4th and 5th grade looking at middle school, or when you're looking at high school, or even college, because now we're doing programs to help families understand what it takes to get your kids to college so that they're informed as their students are being informed. We'll also work with parents who are already in PUSD schools to help them become more effective volunteers, because we believe and we know that the more parents are involved, the better it is, not just for your own child, but for all children at your school. And our goal is really for you to not only do what's best for your student, but to do what's best for every student in the district. And the third way we support parents is that we work very closely with PUSD leadership. So we work with administrative staff and also the Board of Education to bring the parent voice to their decision making, so they're not just making decisions without considering what parents might want. Okay, so there are some really great options for you in PUSD. There's, of course, your neighborhood school, and we hope you'll all visit your neighborhood school, because everybody in the district has an assigned school. But Pasadena, Altadena, and Sierra Madre are also a community that is part of an open enrollment district. And what that means is that you can submit an application to go to a school other than your assigned school if you feel that the culture, the programs, the environment, the school start time, the school end time, the after-school program are a better fit for your family and what's important to you. We have a full program on that. That will be on December 3rd, okay? And that will be at the library. So we're not going to give you all the information about that tonight because they don't have all the procedures in place yet, but typically The open enrollment period is from mid-January to mid-February. It's an online application where you'll be able to list every school that you prefer to your assigned school, and then it's a random lottery process, okay? So, but as I said, some of the particulars about it may shift, and we'll do a whole program about that on December 3rd. And if you're not signed up for Penn membership, if you do that free on our website, we will send you a weekly e-newsletter that'll tell you about all our programs, including this one, so that way you don't forget. So there are a lot of signature and magnet kinds of programs in PUSD. So in addition to having outstanding neighborhood schools, there's also dual language immersion where students learn to speak not only English but a foreign language. There's Spanish, Mandarin, and French programs in the district. There's also an international baccalaureate program, which is a philosophy of education around worldliness and your place in the world and cultural, and that's in PUSD, also K-12. There are STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and math. There's arts magnets. So in addition to just going and having a great regular education, you have all these opportunities in PUSD. And you can find out more about those on our website, which is pennfamilies.org. You probably all know that, though. And let's see, if you're thinking about secondary now, don't, okay? It's a little too early for you to be thinking about that. But just in case people have told you that you can go to PUSD for elementary, but for secondary you'll have to go private, you should know that there are some really cool programs at the secondary level too. There's robotic, there's language programs, there's also an advanced math academy where highly gifted math students can finish calculus AB by the end of 8th grade. So it's a really advanced program. There's also an early college program, so students have the opportunity to finish 2 years of college for free while they are in high school. And then there's a lot of college and career academies, including an app academy where you can learn computer science, and a law academy where you learn about public service and the law, and there's actually a courtroom at Pasadena High School. And there's fabulous music and art programs. It is one of the unique things about PUSD is that they place a high priority on art and music. And so all students at every elementary grade level have an opportunity to be involved with the arts. There are a couple of different ways. There's orchestra that starts in 3rd grade. There's also My Masterpieces, which is sponsored by Pasadena Educational Foundation. And that is at every grade level, students are connected to one of the local arts institutions, and they have a field trip in addition to in-classroom curriculum that's associated with the arts institution. So that's a really fabulous program. Every 3rd grader in the district gets a free swimsuit and free swimming lessons at the Aquatic Center. And then there's also open stage performing arts program for middle students. There are lots of really, really great opportunities. Now, the way you can find out all about those is by going to Penn's website. We have, as I said, it's pennfamilies.org. We have information about all the schools. We have individual fact sheets that will tell you about the schools. We have a tour calendar, because what we really encourage you to do is go visit schools. And then there's also, in addition to meeting with parents tonight, we have an opportunity on our website where we list parent contacts, so you can contact other families to find out information about the schools. Now, before we start our program, I am going to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is about school closures. So many of you may know that the school board has been talking about closing schools, both at elementary and secondary, for the next school year. There will be a vote this Thursday night by the board. They are voting between 3 different scenarios. One of them is closing 3 schools, one of them is closing 4 schools. We do not know we know which schools are in the scenarios, but we do not know which ones they will be voting for. But I will tell you that the reason they are doing this is not because fewer people are attending PUSD. It's because if you look around your neighborhood and you look around who lives near you, you know that there are fewer school-age children living in Pasadena, Altadena, and Sierra Madre. Homes are very expensive, so many families have had to leave the area, and the birth rates are lower for the people who are moving in, so there are just fewer school-age children. This is not unique to our community. Communities up and down California are dealing with this issue. And so the school board is identifying the schools to close for next year. They are not planning on closing any programs. So if you're thinking, well, I wanted to go to this, a dual language immersion program, what if they close that school? They will not be closing any special programs. If they close a school that has a program, that program will move to another school. I encourage you to join Penn's Facebook page because we post everything as soon as we know what's going on. I don't really want to answer a whole bunch of questions about school closures now, but if you're interested, we will be here following the presentation. I just want to make sure we have enough time to give you the information that you're really here for tonight. But we're happy to talk with you about school closures, what that might mean for you, or what it means for the community as a whole. But we view it as something that will give more students more opportunities. When you have so many schools, it's hard to provide every student at every school with the same enriching opportunities for programs and for services. With fewer schools, it's easier to provide every student with those great opportunities. So we're looking at really as an opportunity for more students to take advantage of the great programs that PUSD offers. And we hope that you'll look at it too. At this time, I want to introduce Jennifer Miyake-Trapp, who I was going to give a bio, but in looking at her slides, she does that herself. Brief, but that's okay, I was going to be brief too. But she's an awesome PUSD parent and an education professor, and she also teaches our class that we're now doing for realtors to educate them about the public schools. So, thank you, Jennifer.
Yay, thank you. I'm having battery issues today. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you. I'm delighted that you're here, taking this big first step. I know some of you have been through this process before. Some of you have little ones or older ones, but we're all in this together, right? So we're gonna talk a little bit tonight. We're gonna hopefully do a lot of self-reflection, thinking about what are your values, what do you want for your students, and then learning a little bit about PUSD along the way to see how that can all match up. So I want to start with this quote, and don't worry about the kids, totally fine, that's why we're here. We have Xavier, and Charlotte I met, and Joshua, and Benjamin I think is here, right Benjamin? Is Benjamin here? They help remind us why we're here. So education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Lots of talk, unfortunately, about weapons these days, but maybe we can reclaim that and frame it as education, being our tool for good. So I invite you to think about that. It's by Nelson Mandela. How can we use this thing called school, this thing called education, and in particular our schools in the Pasadena Unified School District to help change our community and change our world for the better, especially if your kids are involved in them. So here's some of our goals. First, we're going to go through briefly identifying your values. So you're going to think about when we say you're looking at a school, what really are your values? Because those values should become your criteria. And those values are different for each and every one of us. So we want to make sure that you know who you are as a family when it comes to education. And then we're going to look a little bit at some of the facts around education. Pasadena Unified is full of rumors and fear and misinformation. So I'd like to kind of work us towards capturing that narrative back and sharing the good news about our schools, not to overlook some of our challenges, because there are challenges, as in any school system, public or private or charter. But really to highlight kind of what we got going on here and how those might align with your family's values. And then I'm going to kind will do in just a moment with your partners, with your community members, with your neighbors. So this is me. I know who I am, usually. I'm the mom of 2 PUSD students. My little one just started kindergarten this year, and we barely made it through the first week. I mean, we made it with flying colors. The first day, she fell off the lunch benches and initiated the first concussion protocol at her elementary school, which she was totally fine. They called me, I was like, send her back to class, she's fine. It was immediate, the response I got phone calls, I got this and that showed me that on the very first day of a busy, chaotic school year, my daughter was seen and heard, and policies and procedures were in place and followed. So although it was crazy and I didn't want her falling off the bench, which was her fault, it was a good lesson for me and a reminder that my baby's safe and she's watched and gonna have a good year. So this is my little one, Belen. She started kinder, and this is my big one, Matea. She started 4th grade this year. This is my husband, Jason. He's a PUSD teacher. He teaches at Washington, they all got these funky names now. Washington STEAM Multilingual Academy, Washington, okay? So he's a dual language teacher. He teaches the 6th grade histories in Spanish. And then in my other job, I'm an assistant professor of education at Pepperdine. I'm on the PDF board. I live in Altadena. We moved to Altadena for the schools. We researched far and wide. This is what I do for a living. Had my spreadsheets going. We were looking around, right? It was color-coded. I mean, I had the jam going. Moved. We had the privilege of being able to move. And so we moved up here because we felt like this was the school system for us, that these were the opportunities for my children that matched our family's values. And in general, I'm just a huge public school supporter. These are our schools. This is what we got for our kids, for our community. So I say that as so you can understand sort of my positionality and where I come from. I'm in the struggle with y'all. My hair's wet because at 4 o'clock I finally managed to shower. So I'm not talking from an ivory tower. I drive my kids around. They pick up the petrified Cheerios from the back seat because I didn't have time to clean the car. That never happens to you guys. Okay. I know you got the little ones, so we're not quite joking yet. The kids are perfect. Okay, so that's a little bit about me and what got me here to this point, looking at these schools. So I'm going to ask you to really think about, because you're choosing schools. Who are you and why are you here? Okay? And I know it's an evening. I know many of you have kids at home and you probably want to be talked at, but you've been talked at enough. It's time for you to talk to yourselves. Talk to your community members so you figure out who you are and what you want. You can Google any information, but until it's you and your voice speaking, none of that information is going to matter, right? So I'm going to ask you to turn to your neighbor. If you came with someone, you can chit-chat. If you came with no one, you can turn. This is our community. These are your neighbors. And I want you to say briefly, who are you and why are you here? And we want to set that intention. Let's do it. Turn around, you can join them. right here in this room. So this is the same thing that can happen at each and every one of our elementary schools or our schools in the district. You just talk, you just make community, and you all share a common purpose. So very briefly, who's going to share? Why are you here? Or who are you and why are you here? We'll get one brave volunteer in our community. Come on, who's going to do it? Right there.
Hi, my name's Alex. I have an older daughter whose name is Amelia. She's going to be in kindergarten next year. I have a younger daughter named Eloise, who's 2 in December, so she's behind her.
Okay.
We're here to see what the options are. I'll be open about it. We're considering parochial schools, we're considering private schools, we're looking for what's best. I want to believe in public school and what we can do about it. The economic argument makes sense to me, the social argument makes sense to me, but they're my kids and I can't do wrong.
They're your babies.
Yep. So
Yep.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate the honesty. One more on this side who's going to talk to us. There it is. Thanks, Mom.
Well, I'm from the East Coast in the Boston area, so there's like lots of, really nice schools up there, but we're not there, we're here, and I don't know what's here, so there you go.
There you are.
Yeah, it's like,
All right.
I got transferred a few years ago, and so.
Well, welcome. We're
Thank
glad
you.
you're here. All right. So I'm going to share a little bit about my family's journey. This isn't to preach. This is my family's journey. My family's values. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to find your family's values. This is not to preach. This is our values, okay? So for us, when we started on this journey looking for schools, number one for us was diversity and multilingualism. We come from a multilingual household, and we knew we wanted dual language education. Like that was a non-negotiable for us. I'm not saying that's the best way or the only way. For us, we wanted a school that was multilingual and diverse, okay? Second, for us, for me and that dude up there, Jason, he's really nice. And we knew we wanted enrichment opportunities at the school that were open and accessible to everyone. So that was our criteria number 2. Not enrichment opportunities that were outside of the school day or extra or that not all kids had access to. And we are both educators, so we see how this plays out for schools and for our students in particular who don't have access to resources, they get excluded. So that was a big deal to us, that we knew that all of our daughters' classmates would have the same opportunities at the school site that our daughters had. And the last thing for us, we're both working parents, we needed after-school care. So, it was a practical consideration. We knew for sure we needed after-school care. We preferred an early start time so that we could drop our kids off and get to work on time. So we sort of had these 2, more lofty ones that were central to our values, and then we had a very practical one. And so every school site we looked through those 3 lenses. Is it a multilingual school that's diverse and has community members that represent all walks of life? Does it provide enrichment opportunities that are accessible to all kids? And is there, please, affordable after-school care that was on site, because we didn't want our kid moved around after school, and we were. Okay, so those were our 3. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is really think for a moment about your 3. So I made this word cloud. I typed in a bunch of different things that people talk about in those mommy groups on Facebook. Those are fierce. And things that are popular right now in education are things that may align with your values. So maybe, for example, you're a person who the arts are number 1. You believe in the arts, you want your kid in the arts, that's your jam, okay? Maybe your child has special needs, and you need to make sure they're going to be in a place where those needs are going to be accommodated and your child's going to be seen and heard. Maybe you really care about STEM, whatever it might be. So this is the part where, at the beginning, I chatted with a couple of you, and you said it's just so overwhelming. There's so many darn options, and you hear all this stuff. It gets less overwhelming if you truly, deeply know what you're looking for and can articulate it. If you really, and you hold tight to those. So I'm gonna ask you to think for a moment right now and come up with your top 3 values or 3 criteria that you are honestly looking for your baby. Okay? Think of those 3 things. And then you can turn to your person, if you have a person, or turn to your community member, and I want you to share those 3 things. And it's okay if you talk it out a little bit, because we talk about schools and get overwhelmed. We don't actually talk about what we want in 3 short ways. Okay? All right, turn to your neighbors or who you came with and say your 3 things, whatever those 3 things are. Don't avoid it. And great schools, and you can look at my daughter's school, which I think is phenomenal, and you can see a big red circle that basically says, don't go here, it's terrible. We giggle, but those are kids at that school. Those are kids. That's my kid. That's getting the big 0. That's getting the red. Those are our community members. So some of the work that we do is to inform our real estate community, like, dude, have you been to a school lately? Or are we just spreading the rumors? So in our schools, it is a fact that we don't have the highest of test scores all the way around. That's a fact, and we can look at those. And what we know based on research is that test scores are most closely associated with community factors. In fact, there was a publication out this week from Stanford that looked at the level of school segregation and how that was associated with test scores and poverty. So what I want to say about test scores is that yes, they exist, they are real. And I ask you, let me rephrase that. Test scores are an indicator of something. So it's up to you and your family to determine what that something is that's being measured and how valuable that single indicator is in your decision on which school or schools that you'd like to explore for your child. What we know for a fact based on research is that test scores do not in any way indicate the quality of instruction and educational experience that is being offered in the classroom. So often at our lowest performing schools, according to this one single metric, you will find the best teachers. Teachers who are working very, very, very hard, meeting the needs of an incredibly diverse population that our public schools serve. We serve all of our students in our community who come to our schools. So I want you to think about how do test scores align with your values. And when you choose to come to PUSD,